area. This morning at approximately 09:33 hours, CHP Los Angeles Communications Center received 911 calls reporting a traffic collision with a marked Los Angeles Police Department motorcycle on southbound I-5 north of Hasley Canyon, which is an incorporated or unincorporated community of Castaic. Based on the witnesses and the LAPD officers' statements, preliminary evidence at the scene was determined that a full-size white pickup truck intentionally struck the rear of an on-duty LAPD motorcycle, pushing it a considerable distance. The motor officer was able to remain on the motorcycle, however, he was injured from the impacts with the suspect vehicle. The officer's injuries were not life-threatening. The officer was transported to Henry Mayo Memorial Hospital. The suspects fled southbound on I-5 in an unknown direction. At the time, the scene is about half a mile long. Currently, there are lane closures on I-5, and there will be intermittent full closures of I-5 to facilitate the investigation. Collecting and preserving the evidence is a long process, and we're attempting to minimize the impact of the motoring public. We want to emphasize if there's anybody that has seen the incident, that drove through the area, also if you have any type of recording device that you use to protect yourself if you're involved in a collision, please make sure you look at it and call us if you have any information that might help us in this investigation. Our number is 661-294-5540. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Los Angeles Police Department Captain Lopez to discuss his officer.
Good afternoon. Alfonso Lopez, ALF, ONSO, LOPEZ. I'm the commanding officer of Central Traffic Division, Los Angeles Police Department. Before we begin, on behalf of Chief Beck and all the men and women of Los Angeles Police Department, we would like to thank our partners from the California Highway Patrol and all their efforts. They have rolled out their best assets to conduct this investigation. They are the lead investigators, and our personnel from Robbery Homicide Division and our Traffic Division personnel are here to assist them in any way they need. We would like the motoring public who were in the area to please, if you've seen anything, reach out to the California Highway Patrol and provide that information. And to the motoring public who are impacted by the lane closures, thank you for your cooperation in this endeavor. When we were notified that our officer, a 28-year veteran of the Los Angeles Police Department, was on duty en route to work on a motorcycle when he was struck. As a result, he was transported to a hospital. He received medical treatment, and he has been released at this point. It is an ongoing fluid investigation, and like I said, the California Highway Patrol is the lead investigators.
Captain, or either one of you, this is definitely intentional. The driver of this truck intentionally struck this officer, and if that's the case, did he know full well he was a police officer?
We have no doubt that this was an intentional act. Sorry about that. We have no doubt this was an intentional act. The officer was in full uniform on a LAPD motorcycle. I'm sure all of you have seen what both CHP and LAPD motors look like. Should be extremely obvious to the person. Obviously, the suspect is outstanding, so we don't know what his train of thought was at that time.
Do you have, did he speed up to hit him? What have the witnesses told you that you can relay to us?
The sequence of events is still under investigation. So the crime scene is substantial. It's about half a mile long. And based on that initial information that we saw at the scene, there was no doubt in our mind that this was intentional.
So he was hit, the officer lost control, or what happened then?
The officer was able to maintain his position on the motorcycle. So he was
being hit?
Yes, yes. And remained on the motorcycle all the way through the end of the sequence of events. But the initial contact and the subsequent contacts involved, he was injured. But he did not fall off the bike or get ejected from the motorcycle.
Okay. So he pushed him, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble getting it in my head. He pushed the back of a motorcycle? Because to me that says he would just flip right away. How did
that's what common sense would, you would think that would happen. That did not happen at this case. The officer, obviously the motors that ride for law enforcement go through extensive training, and he was able to maintain his position on the motorcycle and continue it through a long scene.
How long did this happen for?
It's a half a mile scene.
Wow.
But he didn't, I mean, he wasn't on his tail pushing him, was he? That you know of?
I can't give you the exact length of distance that the contact occurred because I don't have those measurements. But it is very long.
We've heard the reports that the driver, shirtless, coming from Bakersfield, may have had a toe and also has a prosthetic leg. Any of that you can comment on?
I cannot comment on that.
None of that?
No.
Did the officer have any contact with this guy? Like, I mean, did he stop him like down the road a bit and gave him a ticket and the guy was pissed and went up after him? Is there any, did they have contact with each other prior to this traffic collision?
Our officer did not have any contact with the individual. Our officer had, we know for a fact that our officer had not made any contacts prior to this incident. So at this point, there is no relation between our officer and the individual we are seeking.
Captain, he must be some kind of an acrobatic man on a motorcycle. I mean, can you give us a little more detail about how long he's been doing a motorcycle, riding a motorcycle?
Like I said, he was a 20-year veteran from the Los Angeles Police Department. He's been on the motor for over 12 years. He's very extensively trained. Our motor officers have to go through an extensive training class, 2-week training class, and then they have periodic updates. So he did what it was. He allowed his training to react, and he performed adequately.
And his injuries were not serious. I mean, he's home now, you said.
He has been released from the hospital, yes, and his injuries were not life-threatening.
Well, what kind of injuries did he sustain?
Those are medical issues, and I'm not going to release those.
When he finally, was he able to pull over the side of the road to get away from the truck, or what? Or any idea how fast all this was going on at the time? 60 miles, 70 miles, what were they doing?
I can't comment on the speed. It's still under investigation, but the officer was able to move over to the shoulder and stop.
And the driver just kept going?
Yes.
And no license plate? There was some kind of license plate, but there's no number. Do you have a license plate? That
We are still following up on our leads.
But none that you can give
Nothing
out
that,
publicly?
correct.
Okay.
Is there any description of the suspect?
It's a white full-size pickup truck.
No, I mean of the actual guy driving it?
No.
Has this ever happened before? Have you ever had a police officer on a motorcycle, an intentional target from another motorist that you can think of?
Yes.
You have? This
Yes.
happens before?
Yes. I can't remember specifically the year, but I remember a central Los Angeles CHP motor was intentionally struck by a vehicle probably a decade or more ago
So this
that
is
I specifically remember.
This is felony hit and run?
Yes, we are working with the Capos unit from the DA's office for attempted 187 or murder on an officer.
Attempted murder on an officer?
Yes, yes, on a police officer.
If you could give a message to the suspect who could be watching, what message would that be?
Go to the local law enforcement agency around you and identify why you're there and turn yourself in.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Was there any damage to the truck? I mean, there was damage to the bike, obviously. Was there any front damage to the truck?
The vehicle is no longer there, so we can't give you the full extent of the damage, but I'm sure there should be some type of evidence related to the collision on that vehicle. If it still exists, I don't know.
So was there an initial hit and then possibly a push afterwards, or?
Unfortunately, the sequence of events I cannot speak to because there are a lot of dynamics involved, but it is a long, extensive scene. So
and it's like you go before the Hasley turnoff, like a half mile north of the Hasley Canyon Road.
it's
turnoff?
between Parker Road
Right.
and Hasley Canyon.
Do we know which lane it was?
It covers multiple lanes.
Were any other cars involved?
No, there was one suspect vehicle. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.